Hi, I just wanted to make a few comments as we come to the end of week 3. First of all, on your first assignment, your first discussion, um, most of you did reasonably well. Some did very well, and some less so, which is usual, I guess. But what you need to do in the remaining 3 discussions is make sure that you read the question very carefully and stick closely to that in making your comments. Um, you need to analyze and understand what it is that's asked of you. In the second discussion, you'll be listening to a podcast. It's probably best if you listen to it a couple of times and make some notes on what um, the fellow being interviewed is trying to say about the nature of religion and violence, religion and violence, or religion and war. Okay. You also need in a discussion to respond to the posts of others, which is difficult to do if you post in the last half hour because the person that you are commenting on has no chance to come back at you. Imagine that in these discussions you are sitting in a seminar room with another dozen or so people and you're discussing this issue. You're doing it online, but that's the technique you should be using for these discussions, and that's how you'll do better. You don't have to agree with me, or you don't have to say something that I agree with in order to get a good grade. You have to think about the issues and use evidence to back up your points and make points and discuss with the other people in your group. That's how you get good marks on discussions. Okay, I want to talk a little bit about where we are in the course of this moment too. In the past 2 weeks of the course, that is weeks 2 and 3, um, we are looking at the social and cultural impact of the Protestant Reformation on, at this point, the British Isles, the island of Great Britain to be specific. Next week you look at Ireland, which is also part of the British Isles. But what we're looking at is how does this affect culture? Because religion and society are fully integrated, whether you're talking about Catholicism, as you see in the reading Holy, 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 or if you're talking about these new Protestant churches that separate from the Roman Catholic Church. What you are seeing is a process I call the nationalization of religion. That is, religion is still intrinsic to people's everyday lives. It's still something that guides them through the day as well as society in general, but it is becoming restricted to a nation, a country. It is becoming part of the nation state. It is part of this new idea called nationalism. Prior to this, in Western Europe, when Western Europe was entirely Catholic, except for small communities of Jews here and there, when it was entirely Catholic, people had ethnic differences. There were ethnicities. It's something like Canada today. That is, you had ethnic diversity, but these ethnic groups did not form separate countries. There was a sense of everybody belonging to the same cultural whole. That is, everybody was Catholic, and Catholicism wasn't just a religion that you do as a separate activity. It was the parameters and definition of life itself. But what you're seeing happening in this period, we looked at England in week 2, and we looked at Scotland and Ireland, the other two major ethnic groups on the island of Great Britain. We're seeing them dividing into nation states, each with their own type of Christianity. So in England, you see the growth and formation and changes of the Church of England, Anglicanism as it's called today. In Wales, you see a very much more Protestant, sort of basic Protestant type of Christianity. And in Scotland, you see something similar, but with a more organized church. But you're seeing differences based on local language and local culture in each of the 3 major ethnic groups that live on the island of Great Britain. Next week, as I say, we will look at how this works out on Ireland, and it works out very differently with Ireland because you start to see a Catholic ethnicity on the island of Ireland in conflict with a Protestant ethnicity there, which continues to the present day in the north of Ireland, but not in the south. In the following week, we'll see the same process. We'll give a survey of it going on in Western Europe itself, the continent of Europe. That is, we'll look briefly at France and Spain and Germany and Italy and places like that to see how it works out there. The thing that you will notice when we come to that week is that this nationalization of religion also affects those countries that stay Catholic. That the nation becomes more important than the faith. Everybody still practices and lives their faith, but they start to think of themselves as French Catholic rather than Catholics who happen to be French. Or they think of themselves as Spaniards who are Catholic rather than Catholics who happen to be Spanish. That's the difference that we're going to see working out over this first part of the course. Okay, I just thought I'd make a few points like that for you, and I will cut this short so the video doesn't get too long.